from today. Take us through what the next steps are, and how from the Braves' perspective and from Mandalay's perspective, how you hope to see things moving forward.
I've got a couple gold shovels in the trunk of my rental car.
I think right now that might be considered trespassing.
I'll say this: what we found, and Chip Moore, our CFO, who is here, alluded to a couple of recent projects we've engaged in with minor league teams, new stadiums and relocations, et cetera. And we found that the will of the community grew, became more excited, more engaged when the construction actually began. The people got into it, they got behind it. Construction companies had to make deadlines, and they had to make tighter deadlines and even tighter deadlines, and everyone pulled together. And these projects really enlivened the spirit of the community and all of the entities involved, and it really, the jobs got done in perfect fashion, always on time. And with a partner like Mandalay, who has these great relationships already in existence, we're confident that could happen as well.
Yeah, Gwinnett County, from the day that it was announced that the Braves were going to Gwinnett County, was 15 months to opening day. Pearl, Mississippi, from the day we announced on the steps of the state capitol with the governor, was 12 months to the day. And in Mississippi, you have shifting clay. You had to build a slurry wall, so it was pretty complex engineering. Rome, Georgia, I believe was 16 months from the date that the the sales tax was approved, and that was built on a riverside that required Corps of Engineering approval. So, we at the Braves believe that 2014 is certainly a doable date if everything falls into place by July 1 with the budget funding from the city and the like.
Obviously, in this climate, you've got a little more latitude. When we start talking about some of our northern cities, it takes a little longer. Dayton was 18 to 20 months. Optimally, you'd want to have 6 months for your design period and 18 months to build the ballpark. But construction-wise, you can certainly, if you needed to, get it done in a year. So we think that April 14 date is, well, it's an important date. There's a variety of reasons why if it goes past that, there's a lot of different more challenging issues to deal with based on our option agreement with Lynchburg and minor league baseball controls. So this is a perishable opportunity. This isn't one where somebody can say, well, we'll get around to it next year, because it won't be around next year.
So what is there, do you see this as there's a particular window of opportunity here? I mean, I know there's a specific obligation or potential renegotiation if the stadium is not here and you have to go back to the Lynchburg team, if they're still playing there in 2014, what are the time constraints you guys are looking at?
Well, we have an option agreement to buy Lynchburg, and that option agreement is going to expire pretty soon. And we're going to have to make a decision then about whether to acquire the team or not. We're obviously not going to acquire the team, and that's how this started. We're not going to acquire a team unless we know there's a ballpark coming out of the ground. Conversely, the city public sector is not going to build a ballpark unless they know we've got a team to relocate here. So we've made the commitment to buy the team. We negotiated what we consider to be a very fair option agreement with Lynchburg. Having said that, if you're the owner of a minor league baseball team, there's only so many times you're going to let the person trying to buy you say, well, wink, wink, nod, nod, we really need another year on this deal. That's going to start a whole other conversation. And on the back end, to John and Chip's point, Bobby's point about the commitment to Lynchburg, backfilling that market with another one of their teams, where that team's coming from, the lease is expiring, so that's not going to be a pleasant conversation to say, well, we're leaving, but we want another year on our lease. So it becomes a bit of a parade of horribles if this doesn't get committed to now. And the other answer to that question is, if you're familiar with minor league baseball over the last 15 to 20 years, it's not unlike the wave before that of major league ballparks being built. In minor league baseball, that same wave of new stadium construction took place since the early 90s. So teams over the last 10, 15 years that have gotten into new facilities have, like we will, entered into a long-term agreement of 20 to 30 years. They're not going anywhere. And then there's a handful of teams that are owned by community interests who are going to keep minor league baseball there because they want it as an asset for their community. Period, end of story, not for sale. There's some philanthropic interests around minor league baseball that do that. So when I alluded to earlier, there were only 3 potential teams that we identified as those we could potentially acquire and relocate here. The number 1 choice, or the likeliest suspect, we were very surprised, turned us down pretty quickly. The second likeliest suspect hemmed and hawed a little bit, and the third likeliest suspect frankly surprised us by cutting in front of number 2. That's it. There's nobody else buying any teams and moving here. So, and the one we thought was most likely to be an acquisition target has entered into long-term lease negotiations to stay where they are. So that's why this is, as I said before, a perishable opportunity, and all the dominoes are right there ready to fall. All the pieces of the puzzle are out there. Timing, we have a phrase in our company, time kills all deals. So now is a time to make this happen or not make it happen.
So, Mayor, you were very open when this became public and was talked about that this is most likely going to require a property tax increase. We've talked about the sum, and there's been a lot more questions about what other options are there in terms of financing this, either so there's less of a property tax increase or other substitutes. I know you've talked potentially about a TIF district as a possibility, but do you see other things on the horizon, or is this just pretty simply a decision the community needs to make? Do we want to pay this with a property tax increase?
Well, there could be a possibility of that, and I wanted to share that with the community. I've always been honest with you folks, and I wasn't going to sugarcoat anything and tell you it wasn't going to be that way if we had to go at that alone. But there's always the possibility that a private entity could come forward to help fund this thing also. And we have to explore that option also, because there's some very real possibilities out there on private equity and a private group possibly funding this. Gives us an opportunity to amortize it over a longer period of time. It has to pass muster with the local government commission in Raleigh. All of our debt has to be reviewed by at least, I think, about 13 different agencies, including the citizens of this community. So we've got to figure out and take a look at all of those options, including the private sector. Obviously, this is the private sector that is up here with me today, and they're picking up about 25% of that. Can we get more of the private sector in another form or entity that could possibly come forward to do some funding on the baseball stadium, donate some land, or whatever the case may be? And those are the things that we will be taking a look at over the next couple of months with our city manager, with the project manager that will be reviewing this, and try to cut and work out the best situation, the best deal for the community. But there is always that possibility. And I have to be upfront with you. And that's, if we want baseball, there'll be a price tag for it, and this is what it'll cost, and I'm going to share that with the community. Because the city council has got to be able to say, this is what this baseball stadium is going to cost, let's just say in 2012. When we finish it in 2014, it's got to cost the exact same as what we said it was going to cost when we negotiated the contract. So it is a very laborious process, a very long-term process, and in the state of North Carolina, which is a pretty conservative state when it comes to public debt, it is going to also be scrutinized at the state level very thoroughly also. So we have to be able to pass all of that muster before we get there. I just know what we went through building this facility here in Wilmington, this convention center here. And for those that have been on city council, for those that served before, you know what I'm talking about. This is, you just don't come out here and wave a wand and sign off on debt. You have a pretty elaborate process that you have to go through before you issue any kind of debt, whether it be for a park, a police station, a fire station, or a baseball park. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to evaluate it very thoroughly and try to come up with as many options as we possibly can to make this happen. I think it's a golden opportunity for this community. I applaud the Braves organization for having faith to say we feel confident enough to come bring a team to Wilmington. I know a lot of people that have moved here from other parts of the country that have had minor league baseball, love it. But the big question will be what it's going to cost us. And that is what we as a council will figure out in the next couple of months.
Got memories? Get DVDs. Tapes won't last forever. Digital transfers will. Do it today, so you'll have your memories tomorrow. Call us at 399-1820 or online at myrealvideo.com. Mold and time ruin videotapes. Tapes won't last forever. Digital transfers will. Do it today, so you'll have your memories tomorrow. Call us at 399-1820 or online at myrealvideo.com.